All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, allow me to bring you up to speed on the latest in the economic relief debacle that has unfolded over the past week or so. So, you will recall that while President Trump was in Walter Reed, he called on lawmakers to get a deal done. Then, just a few days later, he seemed to kill off any possibility of a stimulus, tweeting that he had told his representatives to cease negotiating and that they would get back to it after the election. Then, hours after that, he seemed to panic and started urging lawmakers to pass various piecemeal items like checks and an airline bailout. When that flamed out, Mnuchin and Trump came fully back to the table with a $1.8 trillion package, which is significantly more than what they had offered in the past. Now, keep in mind here, the Democratic proposal was in the $2.2 trillion range, so Mnuchin didn't come all the way up to meet the Democrats, but $1.8 trillion is a serious offer, and it does contain a lot of key priorities, which would give people and small businesses some real relief and a tiny shred of certainty. We should stipulate here that it is not at all clear that the Senate Republican caucus would ultimately go along with such a proposal, but I'm going to leave that side of the equation for Sagar to handle. So, here is some of what was in that new Mnuchin proposal. A $400 unemployment plus-up, which is short of the $600 Dems are proposing, but still significantly better than the zero additional dollars that unemployed Americans will otherwise receive. A new round of $1,200 stimulus checks, including additional funds for families. Funding to roll back the airline furloughs, which have hit tens of thousands of workers. More assistance for small business. $300 billion to state and local governments, and more. So, with the clock ticking down, 20 million plus Americans on unemployment, 50% of restaurants facing closure, and weekly jobless claims beginning to tick back up. What did Pelosi do? Why, she rejected it immediately, out of hand, of course. In a letter to House Democrats, Pelosi said that the new proposal amounted to one step forward and two steps back, citing the administration's unwillingness to adopt the House plan for vaccine distribution and contact tracing, among some other areas of disagreement. Now, look, I don't think the Mnuchin proposal is perfect. Far from it. From the beginning, I've thought the government should have guaranteed more to struggling families, including backstopping payrolls, automatic UBI for the length of the recession, a large-scale jobs program, Medicare for all, and more. But we've also got to live in the land of reality at this point. And the fact of the matter is, this is very likely the last chance to get anything done for people who are flat on their backs and out of lifelines. Right now, Senate Republicans and Trump at least have some political pressure on them to get a deal done. After Trump loses in November, forget about it. By the time that Biden is inaugurated, the GOP will all be marching in lockstep to the same deficit hawk tune. And Biden's supposedly progressive advisor, Ted Kaufman, has already announced that little is likely to be done because, quote, the pantry will be bare. So this is it, folks. If you actually care about the people who are lining up at food banks, the kids who are going hungry, the families about to get their lights and gas shut off heading into the bitter winter months, the restaurant owners whose dreams are all going up in smoke, the airline workers who've been kicked to the curb by the thousands, this is about as good as it's going to get. And Pelosi, she's just rejected it flat out. Now, as I write this, the only House Dem brave enough to criticize her approach is Congressman Ro Khanna, AOC, Ilhan, Rashida, Pramila, Mark Pocan. So far, we haven't heard a peep out of any of the main progressives, even as American workers face absolutely dire stakes. It is cruel political calculus from Pelosi, playing games with people's lives, and frankly, silence from almost all the rest. I've taken a lot of heat here for saying that Pelosi doesn't actually want to get a deal done because she cares more about the politics than she does about you. Just days ago, Politico mocked that perspective, saying, Pelosi genuinely enjoys cutting deals, especially deals that involve spending money. And there's simply no evidence that, as the left-wing populist Krystal Ball claimed on Twitter, she decided she would rather not have anything for millions of Americans than give Trump any sort of win. Really? No evidence, huh? She loves doing deals, just operating with a pure heart in the best interests of the American people. Give me a break. It has never been more clear that she will find any excuse to keep from giving Trump a deal before Election Day. This is not about what's good for Americans. It's about political power. And frankly, it's disgusting. Even this $1.8 trillion proposal, the Senate GOP is unlikely to go along with. Do you think you're going to get better than that? You think you're going to get more money than that? In fact, the White House has already changed course after watching their proposal shot down from both the Democrats and the Senate Republicans. Once again, the bipartisan consensus against helping poor and working class Americans holds strong. Now, let me be clear. the person most responsible for the mess is absolutely Donald Trump, who could at any time call Pelosi's bluff, agree to her $2.2 trillion, call out the Senate GOP if they don't go along, and actually get this thing done. But let's not pretend like Pelosi has been some noble actor here. Let's not pretend that there's anything outside of pure power lying behind her decision to reject this deal. She has put gaining a slight partisan edge over American lives and livelihoods. Anyone who values humanity over this posturing should make their voices heard. Take this deal. It might not be perfect, but an unrealized imaginary perfection is not going to keep the babies fed and the electric on when the winter turns cold. And Sagar, you and I were discussing the sort of eclectic group that has come out in favor of Pelosi and the Democrats taking this deal. It's Andrew Yang. It's a lot of people on the left. Ro Khanna. You hear very little from anyone else in Congress because they're so afraid of ever going against Pelosi. But if you don't look at this measure and say, at least it's something, at least it's going to give people something. And we saw the way that the initial unemployment plus up really, truly helped people. Poverty actually went down. Like, take the deal. I can't believe that Steve Mnuchin ended up being like one of the best actors in all of this thing. It's just mind-blowing.
Well, it goes to something very core here, which is that it just goes to show how stupid and foolish the Steve Moore, Art Laffer, Larry Kudlow caucus in the White House was, right? Because they fed Trump the idea that the markets were going to crash if he spent more money, or if it would cost him probably. It's not even true. The market crashed the day that Trump was like, no stimulus, right? The Dow went down by like 650 points. And to the extent it's rallying, it's only because of these stimulus talks. Because, yes, as disconnected as the market can be from the reality of everyday Americans, some people still got to spend money for something to make money. Okay? Right. That's just it. Like, at its very core, that's what it is.
The way that works.
We are on the precipice of a gigantic and massive failure. And I keep thinking back to the winter after FDR was elected in 1932, whatever. And there was a winter. There was a gap between his election in November and March whenever he took the presidency. Yeah. And Hoover and the elected Republicans still refused to do nothing. That was the worst winter, they say, in American history. Basically, I mean, up there with like Valley Forge and there, because people were starving. They had already voted and repudiated their president, but Congress would give them nothing. That's when Hoovervilles and all these other things exploded across this country. That is what I worry about the most. When you showed me this piece about there's millions, tens of millions of unpaid utility bills. There's mortgages. There's so much more. Businesses are about to close. The temperature's dropping all around us. That can basically say that outdoor dining, which was the one lifeline for 40% capacity, that's dead. So you just go down the line. No PPP money, no stimulus money, unemployment running out. Look, $1.8 trillion is not enough, but it's something. $400 more per week in unemployment, that's something.
Another round of checks,
that's something.
That would make a big difference for people.
It just would. I mean, it would help pay down debt. It would help pay down and put off whatever forbearance and everything for mortgages. You cannot overstate how it's an imperfect solution. But at this point, just spend the money, because otherwise we will go into a winter of utter and terrible despair.
And I want to be clear, it's entirely possible this ship has already sailed. Like, I don't want anyone to get rosy-eyed glasses about this thing. It is highly unlikely that any of this is going anywhere. Right. The White House has already changed course. Yes. Right now they're like, let's just reallocate some of the PPP money that didn't get spent, which, of course, the Democrats have been rejecting for a long time as well. The Senate Republican caucus, as you laid out very effectively, they're like almost all balking at even the $1.8 trillion. So even if Pelosi could be pressured into saying yes, it's very possible that Mitch McConnell wouldn't take it up ultimately, that Senate Republicans wouldn't go along with it. Like, there would still be a lot of obstacles. But if you think that there's going to be a better opportunity or a significantly better deal on the table than what is being offered right now, it's not going to happen. I mean, this is it, right?
This is it.
After the election, Trump is likely to lose. No Republican's going to go along with him on anything. He's not going to have any pressure or incentive. Like, the only reason he's doing this now is because he thinks it'll be good for his election.
Which is true.
Once that's over, which is true. Yeah. Like, do it for whatever reason. Do it. Yeah. Once that's over, he's not going to have any incentive to ultimately do anything. And by the time Joe Biden gets inaugurated, if he does in fact win, do I have a lot of high confidence that he's going to actually do anything large scale either? No, I don't, because he hasn't been promising anything on the campaign trail. And if you don't promise something on the campaign trail, by and large, you're not going to deliver something that you didn't even tell people that you were going to do. And by the way, that's so many months down the road. Like, how are people going to get from here to there? So this is really it. This is a lot less than what people should get, but it's the best that anyone could possibly do. And so I think that Democrats are being incredibly sort of morally disgusting by putting the politics over getting at least some aid to people's lives.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Still to come, New York Times Guild is facing criticism after they posted a statement on Twitter denouncing one of their colleagues. Journalist Zed Jelani is going to weigh in when Rising returns.